breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning from the Mo. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports. We're going to be taking a look at all these trade deadline rumors, where some of these guys might be going, how the Dodgers might be getting even more powerful in the coming days and coming weeks, and so much more, and where the Milwaukee Brewers should be standing with regards to trade deadline. Should the Chicago White Sox be going for it? So we've got a lot to talk about there. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind there is the maybe does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We had ourselves a great day of baseball on Friday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
You typically don't expect a game involving Paul Skeens and Hunter Greene to be this high scoring, but it was. The Cincinnati Reds, they were on to an 8-7 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. For Skeens, only last 4 innings, he gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. Take deep by Cousin Sal Stewart, 23rd home run of the campaign. J.J. Bleday, his 19th. Hunter Greene was a bit better, but not a ton better. 4 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings as he was taken deep by Jake Magnum, his 3rd home run of the campaign. Caleb Ferguson gives up 2 runs in the 3rd inning. Sam Moll, Julian Garcia combined for a scoreless inning. Pierce Johnson, he gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen, allows a run, and Emilio Pagan, scoreless inning for the Reds to be able to get the job done there. For Wildemar Dotel, he was the man that gave it up after Antoine Kelly actually came in for 3 shutout innings. Dotel gives up 3 runs in a 3rd of an inning. Mason Montgomery, pair of outs out of the bullpen, but he was unable to hold on some of those inherited runners, so the Reds may find a way to be able to persevere there. Being able to persevere, the Baltimore Orioles, 6-4. They take down the Philadelphia Phillies. For the Phillies, Andrew Painter not bad in this one. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Does give up home run to Pete Alonso, 23rd home run of the campaign, and then Orion Kirkring. 4 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Brandon Young was not great himself. 4 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Taken deep by GT Realmuto, 8th home run season. Trey Turner down for what? His 16th. From there, you had a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless from Josh Walker, and you had a scoreless inning from Yernir Cano along Tyler Wells. Anthony Nunez, also a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless for the Phillies. Chase Sugar, a scoreless inning. Tim Mesa out of the bullpen scoreless, but by then the damage had been done. Being able to do not a lot of damage whatsoever, the Chicago Cubs completely shut out by the Yankees 2-0 the final as Will Warren, 6 2/3 innings scoreless. Paul Blackburn walks a blank for 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. David Benner does not poop the Benner, a scoreless inning, and for the Yankees, pair of solo home runs. Spencer Jones, 4th home run of the campaign. Ahmed Rosario is 10th. They both come off a Shota Yamanaga. 2 solo runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Not bad. You had from there Tyler Ferguson give you a scoreless inning. Antoine Kelly, he was able to come in for 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but nothing to him for the Cubs at the plate. Nothing to him for the Cleveland Guardians. 4-1, they fell to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Mitch Bratt gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. Tanner Bybee, he gives up 2 runs in 7 1/3 innings. He wasn't bad, but from there, Eric Sabrowski, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up without getting it out of the bullpen. Matt Fessy had a fiesta for a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Will Dion, a scoreless inning, but the Diamondbacks bullpen was on it. Taylor Clark, Jonathan Loaiska, Kevin Ginkel, Braden Garcia. They're all able to turn scoreless innings. For the Rays, they've been the best team at home all season long. Not so much in this one, 6-1. The White Sox get the job done as Eric Fetty, he does not get whopped. He gives up a home run to Junior Caminero, 30th home run in the campaign. That's all that he allows in 5 innings. Tyler Schweitzer, 3 shutout innings. Trevor Richards, a scoreless inning. And Nick Martinez gives up 6 runs in 6 innings. Regression hit hard as he gives up 4 bombs. Andrew Benintendi, 11th home run season. Miguel Vargas is 23rd. Montaka Murakami, 24th. Colson Montgomery is 25th. From there, Chris Roykoff was able to give you a scoreless inning. 2 shutout from Alexander Cook, and I believe his MLB debut, but giving up 4 bombs, that certainly put them in quite a bit of a hole. And this team was unable to claw out of a small hole. The St. Louis Cardinals, they only got 1 run, 3-1. They lose to the Blue Jays as Dylan Cease. Not quite a no-hit performance, but still very solid. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Spencer Miles, Jeff Hoffman, Louis Varlin, all in his scoreless inning. And Kyle Leahy was fine. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Justin Brule gives you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Peter Strzelecki does give up 2 runs in his inning of work. Gordon Gassefo, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but for the Cardinals, 1 of 10. With men in scoring position in this one for the Miami Marlins, they have the Mets floundering again, 5-2. The Mets fall in this one. Kodai Senga, the surprise starter, gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, and then Xavier Curry, 2 runs allowed in 5 innings, does give up a home run. Cranking one deep was Kyle Stowers' 16th home run season, and then Jansen Junk, not a load of junk. He gives up an unearned run in 5 innings. From there, Cade Gibson and out of the bullpen Squirrels. Calvin Fauché gives up a home run in his 1 1/3 innings. So Francisco Lindor, 9th home run season. Tyler Zuber for outside the bullpen Squirrels. Pete Fairbanks is able to complete a Squirrels inning for the Atlanta Braves. They get to Foster Griffin, 6-2, the final, as Griffin has been the most profitable pitcher in all of baseball. Not on this night. 2 home runs allowed. Matt Olson, 29th home run season. Michael Harris, his 20th, gives up all 6 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Trevor Williams, 2 2/3 innings scoreless, and Bryce Elder did not look elderly. He gives up a home run in his 6 innings of work, and then Eliezer Hernandez, he gives up a home run in his 3 innings of work. As CJ Abrams, he gets his 28th of the campaign. Andres Shapiro is 6th, but Braves now 65-45 thus far this season, and this team is keeping things rocking and rolling as well. For the Houston Astros, they get a nice convincing 11-2 win over the Walker Texas Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi gives up 6 runs in 5 innings, including a pair of bombs. Christian Walker, 22nd home run of the season. Isaac Paredes, his 15th. And then later on, you had Yenier Diaz get his 8th home run season off of Luis Carvalho. 4 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings. You had Nicky Lopez, backup position player, give up a run in an inning. And Hunter Brown solid here. He walked 2, gave up 2 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Jock Peterson, 20th home run season. AJ Blueball, Brian King, they were the king of being able to give you a scoreless inning apiece. Bennett Sosa, Angel De Los Santos were both able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless as well. Angels continue to struggle, 6-2. They fall to the Milwaukee Brewers. For Shane Drone, 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. You did have Denzel Guzman get his 5th home run season. From there, Ebner Uribe, Grant Anderson combined for 2 shutout innings. Trevor McGill, scoreless inning, and Ryan Johnson. 5 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, and he was taken deep in this one by Mr. Bryce Terang, 16th home run season. Jake Bauers, who I thought was going to be up for a long time, 19th home run season. That comes off of Jose Fermin, gives up that home run in 2 2/3 innings of work, and then you had Zach Bachman come in for a scoreless inning along with Luke Murphy. Murphy making his MLB debut, but miserable season just continues out there. It's been an up and down season for these guys, but hey, the Tigers were able to get a triumph here on Friday, 13-1. They destroy the Athletics as Tyler Holton, he gives up a run in 2 innings. From there, Ty Men, he met it in skills, 3 shutout innings. Drew Summers, 2 scoreless innings. Emmanuel De Jesus, 2 shutout innings. And Jeffrey Springs, honestly not the world's worst start. He did walk 5, but gave up 2 runs in 4 innings. Gave up a home run in this one to Kevin McGonigal, his 10th home run of the season. Dylan Dingler off of Luis Morales. He was able to get his 23rd as Morales gives up 8 runs over the course of 2 innings, including home run number 1 of the series, and I believe of the career of Ben Malgeri, so congratulations to him. He also had 3 runs, 2 of which were given up by Brady Basso in 2 innings. And then, Hayden Junger was able to come in for a scoreless inning, but the Athletics, boy, this team was 38-38 at one point, and now they're 20 games below 500. Things have been absolutely awful there. Things have been up and down for the San Diego Padres, but they get a 7-0 win over the San Francisco Giants as Carson Weisenhunt, 6 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, cranked deep by young outfielder Jace Bowen, his first home run of the season. Adrian Okomdoogie, those are actually good in long relief. 4 2/3 innings scoreless, and Bradley Rodriguez, 8 scoreless inning as the opener. Yuki Matsui, 3 shutout, and then Odomar Marquez, 5 shutout innings as the Giants. They got 2 total hits in this game. And for the Colorado Rockies, rare low-scoring slog at home. 3-1, they take it to the Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha, not bad, 3 runs, 1 of which was earned in 6 innings. Easton McGee, Nate Pearson both gave you a scoreless inning, and Tomoyuki Sugano gives up a home run in 6 2/3 innings. Carter Jensen, 15th home run season. Antonio Senzatello, Brandon Bernardino both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Jordan Romano, scoreless inning. He actually leads the Angels and the Rockies in terms of saves right now, which I think is one of the most hilarious stats of all time. And it's hilarious how things have been going for the Seattle Mariners recently. They drop another one. This by a count of 5-3 to the Minnesota Twins. For the Twins, Zebby Matthews gets 10 punch-outs but allows 3 runs in 5 innings, including a home run to Colt Young, 14th home run of the season. From there, Cody Funderburk, Tommy Nance, they combine for a pair of shutout innings. Andrew Morris, scoreless innings. Yandri Gomez, he was able to come in for the 9th, and Bryce Miller gives up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Was cranked deep in this one by Mr. Brooks Lee, his 16th home run season. Then Jose Ferrer gives up a home run to Royce Lewis, 11th home run season. Ryan Jeffers, his 10th. That one comes off of Edward Bizzardo. Bizzardo, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 1 2/3 innings. Ferrer, 2 runs allowed in his inning of work, and Michael Rucker, a scoreless inning. And doing this one as it's just wrapping up. I have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Red Sox currently leading the LA Dodgers by a count of 8-4. You've already got your over, and unless if something dramatic happens, it's going to be the Dodgers taking the L in this one, despite Shohei Ohtani getting swung fourth home run of the season as Ranger Suarez gave up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. And then Giovanni Morin with inherited runners, he gives up that home run to Ohtani. He gives up 1 run in a third of an inning. As of right now, Brian Bayo has went 3 scoreless innings in long relief, and the Dodgers are taking the wholesale approach as well. Edgar Enriquez, scoreless inning, will climb 3 runs, 1 of which was earned in 1 1/3 innings, and Cole Irvin to this point has just wore it. 5 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Looks like he's going to come out for the 9th as well. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has become an underwhelming season. For the unders, they're hitting at right around about a 50.8% rate. 818 unders with the game that's happening right now in Los Angeles, 791 overs, and we've had, I believe, 38 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line, they're hitting at about 56%, 896 and 705. Meanwhile, among those 896 favorites, 221 have failed to cover the run line over the last 7 days. Favorites are hitting at about 57%, 53 and 41 on the money line, but 19 of those favorites failed to cover the run line. Meanwhile, the under rate, that is right in the neighborhood about 59%, 38 overs, 55 unders, and that serves me correct, a push along the way. And if you look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, under rate more around about 56.5%, 151 overs, 196 unders, and we've had a few pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line hitting more in the neighborhood about 56.8 or so percent, 194 and 148, with among those favorites a staggering 55 being unable to cover the run line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends, Danny Vietti, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Danny Vietti aboard. He is doing such great work over at CBS Sports, looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Additionally, he does a great job with his own podcast, the Wake Rake Podcast. He and Will Middlebrooks, a World Series champion of the Boston Red Sox and a former Milwaukee Brewer, do an absolutely sensational job there. To be able to follow Danny on the old Twitter/X, easy enough. His first and last name, Danny Vietti. Last name is spelled Vietti altogether. And Danny, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Anytime, brother. Let's talk deadline, shall we?
Oh, absolutely, because we've got ourselves a lot that is going on. And how do you take a look at some of these teams that have fallen out? Because it feels like the Tigers are going to be the most interesting sellers. They scratched Casey Mize on Friday for his start. Tariq Skubal, they gave him like a round of applause after his start. And I know that they were posting up like some social media posts saying thank you for everything. And it feels like the Tigers are going to be the team that really sells a lot.
Nah, the writing is on the wall. It seems like all your most notable and credible reporters across the league are reporting that this is probably Skubal's final days. So I expect Skubal to be on the trade market, just considering the fact that he's owed another $10 million for the rest of the season, which is not a lot, but for a team that is currently out of contention, for a team that is looking at an impending free agency for Tarik Skubal, it just doesn't make sense organizationally to keep him. The most recent large example of this would be the Los Angeles Angels before Ohtani hit free agency.
And they bought at the deadline.
And they bought, and I know hindsight says that it was obviously not the right decision, and obviously they had trades on the table that could have probably helped this franchise here in 2026. They opted to buy. At the time, I supported it. My argument was, look, this could be the last 3 months that you, in the history of baseball maybe, that you have the two best players in baseball on the same roster, Trout and Ohtani. Trout wasn't completely healthy at the time, but we could talk history for days, and we can look back in hindsight and talk about that another day, I guess. But I say all that to say, Tarik Skubal should be available, and he should be donning a very, very large return package. May it be the Brewers, may it be the Braves, may it be, yes, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who will be probably the most aggressive suitor.
Yeah, and with the LA Dodgers, I think that that's the biggest fear, that we just see the bad guy become more bad. Because if I'm the Milwaukee Brewers, I'm looking a little bit more at bats right now, and I'm hearing some rumors about Freddie Peralta as well, which that's just a natural fit. The sell that they would have to make to be able to get Freddie Peralta, they'd be giving up much, much less than Tariq Skubal. For the Brewers, I know that they traded for CC Sabathia 2 decades ago, because I absolutely love that as a Brewers fan, but it just feels like they're probably going to go the path of Peralta and maybe a bat rather than a guy like a Tariq Skubal.
It's a perfect fit. I mean, you deal him away this last offseason, not because you didn't want Freddie Peralta, but because you weren't willing to pay Freddie Peralta when he's coming up on free agency. So it wasn't as if the Milwaukee Brewers didn't like Freddie Peralta. It just didn't make sense for them payroll wise to keep him. They were trying to get what they could for him at the peak of his performance. So it makes complete sense. Milwaukee is looking to not only add a starting pitcher, but like you said, probably add a bat. You look around the league, the Giants hitters that they have available, may it be Devers, Adames, Chapman, their contracts are just too high. I don't see those guys being much of a fit for Milwaukee, who likes to be a little bit more economical. Detroit, maybe, with Gleyber Torres could be an option if they can get him in a package with Tarek Skubal. Milwaukee has some pretty good infield depth, so I don't know if that's a perfect fit there. I wonder if they could get Luis Robert Jr. On a very fair deal, in that there's questions of what his health is right now. He hasn't performed to expectations for about 3 seasons now, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and the Mets are very eager to get rid of him, as he is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. I wonder if Luis Robert Jr. could be acquired for pennies on the dollar, and then all of a sudden you get Luis and he's potentially healthy, and he could, if nothing else, be a very great depth piece who, yes, he hasn't done it with the bat recently, but he still has been a premier defender despite his offensive struggles.
Yep, he certainly has been, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Mets do at the trade deadline, because you know that Steve Cohen, with all the money that he's got, he does not want to concede even a little bit, but concessions, it feels like, needs to be made for the Mets. You mentioned Luis Robert, Francisco Lindor is coming up right now. We talked about Freddie Peralta. I think that this is just going to be an interesting period in general for the New York Mets, because they're right now a team very much in transition after it just didn't go their way this year.
No, and the Mets are in a really, frankly, a poor spot. Their farm system is ranked one of the worst in baseball. They have just one prospect in the top 100. That's Jonah Tong. We've already seen Jonah Tong. They're looking to rebuild the system, and the only way to do that is to be able to trade a Luis Robert Jr., a Bo Bichette. But I don't think Lindor is going to go. I think he's safe, just considering how much money he's owed, how much more is left on that contract. He hasn't been healthy this year. He hasn't really been the Lindor that we all know and love yet. I just don't think there's a perfect fit anywhere for Lindor unless there is a perfect blockbuster trade on the table, which I personally haven't seen too many proposals that seem credible. So I think Lindor is safe, but the Mets have said reportedly that basically everybody but Nolan McLean and Carson Bench could be on the table trade-wise. So, I mean, guys like Francisco Alvarez could be traded. I mentioned Robert Jr., maybe Lindor. Maybe someone takes on Bichette, who has a player option at the end of this year. So I think anything's on the table for the Mets, because they're pretty desperate to rebuild this franchise that, one, has the highest payroll in Major League Baseball, them and the Dodgers, but also, unlike the Dodgers, do not have a farm system to support it.
Yeah, they certainly do not. And it's just such a rough situation right now for the New York Mets. So they're going to be a team to watch moving forward, as Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And this team, I think, has become oh so interesting here, because for the AL Central, we were wondering how that was going to shake out. Clearly, the White Sox are not going to be sellers, because they are currently right there with the Cleveland Guardians atop the division. But the Minnesota Twins, we've talked a lot about Joe Ryan. I think you actually mentioned on this very show, hey, you know what? Joe Ryan could be a great trade piece. It seems like he's not going to move anymore, because the Minnesota Twins, about 48 hours ago, they acquire A.J. Minter to help out a very much struggling bullpen, and it feels like the Twins might actually go for this.
Yeah, I give them credit. Like, I think that fan base, from what they went through, I mean, I kind of pointed this out. 1 year ago, the Twins were probably the biggest laughingstock at the time. They were probably the biggest laughingstock in the league. They traded away 40% of their roster 1 year ago. 365 days ago, they traded away nearly half of their roster because they were expected to, one, sell the team, and two, they were having a miserable season. So the only notable players they kept was Joe Ryan. They kept Pablo Lopez, who was injured, and then they kept Byron Buxton. But half their roster, see you later, including Carlos Correa and many of their big time relievers at the time. Now this year's roster, Jeffress is still there, but other than that, it's been guys like Cody Clemens really stepping up, Josh Bell stepping up, Trevor Larnach has really stepped up. Like, not a whole lot of big name A+ names on the roster necessarily, but their rotation has done a nice job of keeping them in ball games. Their bullpen has done a nice job. They're playing complementary baseball. That being said, they're hovering around that 500 mark. I don't expect them to be uber aggressive at the deadline because, like I said, yes, these players are outperforming expectations, but Minnesota still kind of is, if not a rebuild, definitely in a retooling. So I give them credit. I think they're one of the better stories in baseball this year, them along with the Chicago White Sox. But maybe they add an arm, maybe they add a complimentary bat, but I don't expect them to be part of the bigger discussions for the bigger names.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And I do think that it's going to be interesting to see how they sort of mix and match and maneuver here at the trade deadline because it does feel like they're leaning towards keeping their core. Do they buy any more than what they just did with AJ Minter, or do they add a little bit more as well? Danny Vietti does such great work over at CBS Sports, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then I think this one is the most interesting one. We don't know what is going to be happening with the San Diego Padres because it feels like they're starting to fall out of that playoff race, but AJ Preller, he's a guy that does not want to sell. Like, this is a man that always wants to be all in every single year, and there's a lot of teams that could use Mason Miller. How do you take a look at the San Diego Padres, since I know that you were pretty close to the area, and what they might do here at the deadline? Because I know that they don't want to move Mason Miller. They really, really don't, but they might just get an offer that they can't refuse.
Selling is not in the dictionary of, it's not in the AJ Preller dictionary.
No.
We'll put it that way. It's not what he likes to do. He likes to deal prospects and he likes to make a lot of moves to put his team in position to contend for a title, which the San Diego fans have reaped the benefits of it. They've had one of the longest streaks of sellouts at Petco Park the last few years, and they have created a culture down in San Diego that, whether they win games or not, it's very, very positive, and they have a high payroll, and they've been able to build true culture down there, which is great. That said, you look back on some trades, James Wood, CJ Abrams, part of that Juan Soto deal, both became all-stars. It just becomes a fact of, okay, how many of these prospects are you willing to trade? And, they also got rid of like Ty France to Seattle in a trade for Austin Nola. That didn't end up doing great for them, although France is back with San Diego. I was kind of doing some numbers research. I'm trying to figure out, okay, is it that big of a deal to trade your prospects? Like in hindsight, does it end up kind of kicking them in the rear end in years down the road? Well, this season, if you look at F-WAR, so your 6 best offensive players this season are Pete Crow Armstrong, Yordan Alvarez, Dylan Dingler, Bobby Witt Jr., Otto Lopez, and James Wood. Those are your top 6 F-WAR leaders this year. 3 of those 6 were traded as, quote, minor league prospects at previous trade deadlines. PCA, who leads the league in F-WAR this year at 7.1, he was traded from the Mets to the Cubs when he was just 19 years old and in single A. Yordan Alvarez, second in F-WAR this year. He was traded from the Dodgers to the Astros before he ever played a professional baseball. James Wood is 6th this year with a 4.4 F-WAR. He was traded when he was in, I think he was in single A at the time, from San Diego to Washington. James Wood is considered an absolute franchise piece and franchise building piece for a Nationals team that is thriving right now. It just becomes a matter of, okay, I have prospects to deal. How many am I willing to deal? Because am I willing to completely destroy my farm system to go all in for a potential postseason run? Or are you a team more like Milwaukee in that you might not be able to afford players on the market come free agency time? I got to be able to keep these farm system players so that I can rebuild from within. Each of these clubs, they have their own restrictions. And that's what kind of makes this deadline so much fun, because they're each playing with different strategies and each playing with different cards.
Yep, they certainly are. It is going to be such an interesting deadline. And just when you take a look at the landscape of baseball right now, what's one or two surprise moves that you could see happening / maybe a surprise buyer or two, because I do think that's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I just keep coming back to the Chicago White Sox, and I think this is a team that should be a little bit more aggressive than what a lot of people think, because a lot of people are saying, hey, you're going to have a lot of bites at the apple. It's a young team that's overachieving this year. And if I'm the White Sox, I will be going for it this year, because I don't think we ever see the American League as weak as it is right now.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I still think they're lacking starting pitching depth, and they're probably missing 2 or 3 arms to really give them a real chance. They've been kind of floated in talks with the Mason Miller rumors. It would take a massive blockbuster because of the team control that goes along with Mason Miller. And the Padres, too, they just got rid of their number 2 overall prospect, Leo DeVry, a year ago to get Mason Miller. So for the Padres to, 1, sell, which we just talked about they don't like doing, and 2, to basically punt on the trade that they made a year ago to get him, it's going to take a massive deal. So I expect Chicago to at least provide this roster who has earned the right to be buyers at the deadline. I do expect them to add. I just personally don't think they're going to be in on the Tarek Skubals. They're not going to be in on maybe the big name blockbuster names like Mason Miller, or even somebody like a Willie Adames or something like that.
Freddie Peralta, yeah.
Freddie Peralta. I think it's going to be more B-level names, and they'll add some complimentary guys. I think, frankly, Chicago probably, they would never say this publicly. They probably didn't expect to be 57-51 at this juncture of the season in first place in the American League Central. So they deserve all the credit in the world, but I personally don't expect them to take too much of a toll on their farm system to compete this season. But to your point, American League, it looks winnable.
Yep, it certainly does. And I mean, I don't know if the biggest stan of the Chicago White Sox thought that the Chicago White Sox would be here, considering they set a record in Major League Baseball history for losses less than 24 months ago. So right there with you. It's going to be an interesting trade deadline. Danny, you're going to be very busy these next few days. I know you got us covered on the Wake Rake Podcast. I know you're doing great work over at CBS and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, all the latest rumors, speculations, matchmaking, trade deadline content on CBSSports.com, and if not on CBSSports.com, at Wake Rake Pod on your favorite audio platforms.
Absolutely, and Danny is doing such an incredible job keeping his finger on the pulse of all things baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So, big thanks to Danny for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. It is always a pleasure to be joined by our guy, Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, the Wake Rake Podcast, and so much more. Every single time he joins me, he learns such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started. This is 901, 902 on the card. It's the Miami Marlins. They're on the road against the New York Mets. Zach Thornton is on the bump for the Metropolitans, and Tyler Phillips for the Miami Marlins. 9 is the total. Under is -115, and the over is -105. Between -125 to a -135. That's your number on the Metropolitans, and for the Fish, they're anywhere between +110 to a +118. And I know that the Mets are sellers right now, but I'm going to be willing to buy in on them. I set the Mets at a -142. I've liked what I've seen out of Zach Thornton, albeit in a small sample size. He's only made 5 starts this season, but still, he's been able to do a nice job holding it down, and he's been able to just really keep things out in front of him. 0.6 home runs, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, 2.43 ERA. He is getting fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I aim for Tyler Phillips. He's at 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. so right on par there with only 4.1 walks per 9 innings. 3.52 is his ERA, but the fielding independent is a 4.61. Away from home, Tyler Phillips has been a different pitcher. Sub-2 ERA at home, 6.23 away from home. Now, it is a Mets lineup that has been rough this year, 27th in terms of run creation. Juan Soto is currently on the injury list, so that makes things even worse with that regard. But for this Mets team, they do still have these guys like a Carson Bench, Francisco Alvarez, who have been able to hit 250 plus. They've been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers. Mark Vientos has just given you absolutely nothing whatsoever. But hey, AGU and right around about a 340 on base. They're trying to get anything whatsoever to the likes of Luis Robert or a Polanco. That has been rough, to say the least, and that's a big reason why I'm going to be in on the under. Because on the flip side for the Marlins, while you do have quite a few guys swiping bags, Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, Jacob Marcy, Asterio Ruiz, all at 17 plus stolen bases, and just don't have a lot of boom with this team. And Otto Lopez is hitting at 325, that's great. Griffin Conine has been able to give you a home run every less than 15 at-bats. He's been able to give you 9 bombs in less than 150 at-bats, so that's solid too. But I mean, like Liam Hicks, he's been able to give you 13 to 14 home runs. He's towards the top of the fold, along with Roberto Hernandez, who's up to 16 home runs, 305 on base. It is a Marlins team that is starting to experience a little bit of strife with their bullpen as well. Anthony Bender being on the injury list, Michael Peterson deal with injury. That's not great. Lake Bakar, who's been relatively solid this year, he is seeing a little bit of regression. John King continues to be a king, sub 350 ERA, but Pete Fairbanks, he's been absolutely awful. And for the Mets, they did trade away AJ Mitchell about 24 to 48 hours ago, but still, they've got quite a few good pieces in this bullpen. Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley, along with Luke Weaver, all these guys have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Devin Williams continues to be a disappointment, but I think they get a low-scoring game, and the Mets get the job done. Set them at a minus 142, and on the Mets money line, and like the under, some may tell 7.9. 903, 904 on the card. The Reds, yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're going to be playing us to the Pittsburgh Pirates, as Braxton Ashcraft hopes to not be a load of Ashcraft for Pittsburgh, and Andrew Abbott is on the bump for Cincinnati, and the Redlegs do find themselves anywhere between plus 105 to plus 110 underdogs, minus 114 to a minus 130. That's the number on the Pittsburgh Pirates with a total of 8.5. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And I do like the Pirates here on the money line. I set them at a minus 119. For Braxton Ashcraft, it's been a little bit shaky for him recently, but I love the overall stuff, and I do think that he just provides a lot more than Andrew Abbott. Even though Abbott has given up 300 runs or fewer now, 15 out of his last 16 starts, I feel like that's been a little bit of a magical ride. And hey, on the flip side, you do have a Reds Ashcraft and Graham Ashcraft, who's been dealing with injury for a very long time, but for Braxton, he's right now posting up a 405 ERA, but closer to a 348 fielding dependent. 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he's getting the 10 punch-outs per 9. Again, rough run. 4+ runs allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but I do think that that's going to be ironing out a little bit more moving forward. And for Braxton Ashcraft, when it comes to him on the road, he's been giving up a little bit closer to about 1.7, 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, but does go up against a Reds team that's actually averaging fewer than 4 runs per game at home this year. That's been a bottom 6 mark in all of baseball. And for Andrew Abbott, he's been, in my opinion, quite fortunate to have the 385 ERA that he has. 477 fielding dependent, 1.3 home runs, 4.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. Again, 7.2 punchouts per 9. So do have to have some massive question marks with what he's going to be able to do here. I have no idea. He's been allowing such few runs, and for the Pirates, it's been a little bit of a rough go of it for their offense ever since the All-Star break, but they're still a top 5 team in terms of run creation. They're averaging between 4.8 to 4.9 runs per game away from home, and they've done this mostly without Oneil Cruz, as you've got Brandon Lowe getting loud. He's been able to give you over 20 home runs, and then you just have a lot of guys that find a way to get on base. Esmeralda Valdez, he's getting a home run every about 12 or so at bats. Brian Reynolds, along with Nick Gonzalez, Rodriguez at the first base spot. All these guys are giving you at least a 365 on base. Spencer Horwitz should be coming back any day now as well. Jake Magnum has been able to hit a 300. And then for the Reds, you've got JJ Bleday up to 19 home runs, and he's been solid. 340 on base. Ellie De La Cruz, along with Spencer Steer, are up to 16 plus home runs, but Steer has been in and out of the lineup. De La Cruz, he's giving you about a 360 on base, gives you those stolen bases. And then Sal Stewart is your main home run hitter, 23 home runs. Bottom of the fold with these guys like Navoli Marte, Matt McClain, TJ Friedel, hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. You're going to need a little bit more there, and both of these teams are rough with their bullpen. Reds have been even more rough with their bullpen. Now, TJ Antone, Brock and Roberka have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but likes of Sam Mull, Emilio Pagan, Pierce Johnson. These are guys that are just not cutting it. Chase Petty is a guy that I really don't believe in either. And for the Pirates, having Evan Sisk on the injured list, that has been an issue because, in my opinion, he's been one of the best relievers for this team. And also an issue, Paul Skeens only went 4 innings in the start yesterday. So that's less than tremendous. They're kicking the tires on Aron Mananaccio, who comes over from the San Diego Padres. Carmen Molzinski has been able to give you some good long relief, though. Yohan Ramirez has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. So with the Pirates, do think that they go out there, get the job done, set them at a minus 119. So I'm going to be in on their money line, and this is a total where I'm going to be in on the over. I set my total at an 8.8. 905, 906 on the card. The Nationals are going to be on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Reynaldo Lopez is on the bump for the Braves, and Miles Mikolas goes for Washington. Washington does find themselves as a underdog here between plus 154 to a plus 170, minus 185 to a minus 190 across the board is that number on Atlanta. 9.5 is the total, under is minus 120, the over is even. I'm going to take a shot here on the Nationals. I set them at a plus 163. Now, Miles Mikolas is likely to have an opener come in for him. Sometimes they actually start him, but you look at his 22 overall appearances, he's only made 9 starts, and for Mikolas, yeah, he's had a rough season. 5.65 ERA, 5.66 fielding dependent, 2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's getting fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. But if you look at the way that things have progressed throughout the season, he's been able to get better as the campaign has gone along. Not to say that he's like a Cy Young candidate or anything like that recently, but if you look at the last 20 appearances, down to about a 4.76 ERA, the home runs per 9 rate is more around about 1.75. So at the very least, it's presentable, and Reynaldo Lopez is a little bit lucky that he's got the ERA of a 3.64 that he's got right now. Fielding dependent, more around about a 4.33, and while he's getting about 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, he is giving up about 3.6 walks per 9. The Braves, they continue to be a top 6 team in terms of run production, getting back around Acuna Jr. That's going to be paying dividends for them. Drake Baldwin, since the All-Star break, has been solid. Matt Olson went deep once again yesterday. He's up to 29 home runs. Ozzie Albies, 17-plus bombs, hitting at 260. Mauricio Dubon is hitting at 260. Dom Smith is a guy that's hitting closer to about a 260 as well. And then Michael Harris, double-figure amount of homers, hitting just below a 295. Flip side for the Nationals, James Wood continues to give you good wood, 4 on base, 30-plus home runs. And then C.J. Abrams, 27 home runs, 365 on base out of him. They do trade away Curtis Mead, who pretty much got hurt right away, which that's just very unfortunate for him. But you've got Nasim Nunez, who's give you like 38 stolen bases. You need more of these guys like Andres Shapiro along with Dylan Cruz, but that's nice. The Nationals, if you've got trepidation with this team, the bullpen has been absolutely terrible. PJ Poulin, Brad Lord, they're on the injury list. Carson Palmquist, Riley Cornelio, these are guys that are posting up an ERA well above a 5. Orlando Robalta has not been too bad, but hard to have a lot of faith in these guys. And then for the Braves, they are numero uno in terms of bullpen ERA. The Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, they both been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. DDA Fuentes has done a nice job holding down the fort, like what I'm seeing out of Racio Iglesias, but again, have a little bit of fear with Reynaldo Lopez, especially with length, because he was just in the bullpen a few starts ago as well. So I set my total 9.7. I'm going to be in on the 9 after the over, and being able to get this big of a number, I do like the Nationals here on the money line as well. 907, 908 on the card. It is the San Diego Padres, 8 playoffs to the San Francisco Giants. We do know that Walker Buehler goes for the Padres, and Tyler Mahle should get the start for the Giants, but right now that is TBD, and that's why this game is off the board. Assuming that we get Mahle going against Walker Buehler, I set the Padres at a minus 153. We'll lay up to a minus 153. They're actually set at a minus 154, so we need at least a plus 155 to take a shot on the Giants, and then I set a total of an 8.4. 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher the under. If you do get Tyler Mahle, he's been posting up an ERA that is darn near an 8 away from him compared to about a 3 at home. Like, just absolutely demonstrative home and road splits. He has been giving up 1.3 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9, so overall 4.96 ERA, but closer to 4.42 fielding dependent, and this is a pair of teams that, no doubt about it, they both have had their issues being able to score runs. For the San Francisco Giants, up to about 21st in terms of run scoring, and the Padres, they've actually been really good here in the second half of the season in terms of generating more offense, but still averaging 3.7 runs per game at home. That is second worst in the National League to only, surprisingly, the St. Louis Cardinals, and you just have not gotten bombs out of Fernando Tatis Jr. A little bit better post-All-Star break, but entered in this series, only hitting 8 home runs thus far this season. Manny Machado seems to be really starting to put it together. He's still only hitting about a 215, but he's up to 23 home runs. Ty France, Jackson Merrill, 15-plus home runs apiece. Xander Bogaerts continues to be a disappointment, and all these mix-and-match guys like Freddie Fermin at the bottom of the lineup, they're kicking the tires on Jace Bowen. They're really not panning out, but for the Padres, they also have the far better bullpen in this case. If you had to trade away Mason Miller, and I don't think that they are going to trade him away, Wandy Peralta, Yuki Matsui, I'll give you a sub 325 ERA. Adrian Morejon, alone has been one of the better long relievers in all baseball over the last 2 months as well. And then for the Giants, Caleb Killian is starting to hit the toilet bowl. He's got an ERA above a 4. Now they're getting back Keaton Wynn. Eric Miller's been a little bit better in the bullpen, so they're about a league average team, maybe a tad higher with regards to that ERA. And then, like I was mentioning, this lineup has been much better recently. You've got Casey Schmidt and Rafael Devers, both above 20 home runs. Schmidt has been out of the lineup the last few days, so you do want to be noting that. William Adames, 18 home runs, the 280 on base, that's not necessarily amazing. And then Bryce Eldridge, he's been able to give you about a 350 on base. He's been regressing a little bit, but still providing some good offense. And then Luis Reyes hits well above a 300. Jungle Lee is hitting a 300 as well, so it leads to an interesting circumstance because for Walker Buehler, I actually do think that he's been far better than what the ERA would indicate. Right now, he's posting up a 5.13 ERA, but a 4.35 fielding dependent. His strikeout stuff is up 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but he was a little bit of a victim of a day where the wind was blowing out in Wrigley Field and he got destroyed for like 500 billion runs. His ERA is a full point lower when he's at home rather than away from home. He's only giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings at home. So 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or the under. Will delay up to -153 with odds plus 155 or better. The Giants, 909, 910 on the card. It's the Minnesota Twins, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Seattle Mariners. Connor Prelip goes for the M's, and you've got Mr. Logan Gilbert going for the Mariners. Mariners do find themselves as pretty good-sized favorites here. Going to be laying between -164 to a -170 with them, and between +138 to a +150 is that number on Minnesota. 8 is the total. The under is -120. The over is even. Seeing some stray 7.5s out there as well on the 7.5. The over is -120, and the under is even. Personally, I'd rather have an 8 under rather than a 7.5 to the over. Recognize that Logan Gilbert has actually been far worse at home rather than away from home this year. That's been a little bit wonky, but I do think that Logan Gilbert is really starting to round into form. He had that one bad start against the Tampa Bay Rays a few weeks ago, but past that, this has been a guy that's been rocking and rolling here over the last 2 months. 344 ERA, even lower fielding independent with 1.9 walks, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and just feels like for the Minnesota Twins, Byron Buxton just has not been himself since coming off the injury list. He's been stuck on 25 home runs for quite a while. You do have guys that are doing a solid job moving the line. Ryan Jeffers has been hitting just below a 300 along Trevor Larnage. Both of these guys are giving you over a 350 on base. Josh Bell has been significantly better recently as well since beginning of the month of June. He's posting up an on base percentage that's above a 340. Brooks Lee is up to 15 home runs as well, but do want to note that Buxton is right now dealing with a little bit of an injury. He might be hitting the injured list as well, so that's an even bigger issue for the Twins team. That's why I do lean to the 8 to the under, because if we see him in any sort of capacity, it'll be as a pinch hitter because he's probably not going to be in the starting lineup. Like I said, might be hitting the injured list by the time this comes out. And for the Seattle Mariners, you've got a hodgepodge for their lineup. They've been a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation. Dom Canzone has been your main power hitter, 18 home runs, and he's up above a 340 on base. Cole Young, Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, Luke Raley, between 13 and 16 home runs apiece. For all these guys aside from Raley, they're all hitting at least a 250, but I mean, Cal Raleigh, 11 home runs and hitting a $163. You just expect more there. Colt Emerson has not been what they've been hoping for, but for Seattle, they've also been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen area. Even with Matt Brash, Cooper Criswell on the injury list, Gabe Spire, Jose Ferrer, Edward Bazardo, these have been guys giving you a sub 350 ERA. Andres Munoz, after a really bad start to the season, he's been able to round into a little bit of better form as well, and Alex Hoppe was terrible at the beginning part of the season. He and Cole Wilcox are now giving you good innings, and for the Minnesota Twins, they now have AJ Minter in the bullpen. That's going to help out quite a bit for Connor Prelip. The overall ERA this season is not necessarily the most sexy at a 4.73, but he's getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowing 1 home run per 9. The fielding independent is more than a full point lower than the ERA, so give me the under on the 8. And for the Mariners, set their money line price at a -179. I was willing to take a +115 or better with regards to laying a run half on the run line. Right now, I'm seeing that more in the neighborhood, about a +130, +135. Going to be willing to take that Mariners run line to go along with the 8 under. 9-11, 9-12 on the card, though. White Sox are going to be on the road against the Rays as Drew Rasmussen goes for the Rays. Noah Schultz for the White Sox. White Sox do find themselves as a pretty good-sized underdog here. +144 to a +150 and -155 to a -175. That's your number on the White Sox. 8 is the total. Over and under any between -105 to a -115. And with the Tampa Bay Rays, set their money line price at a -116. I was willing to take a +120 or better with regards to run line. Right now, I'm finding that right around +125, +130, and that's where I'm going to be settling. For Noah Schultz, just been a case where the command has not been great, and I do think that he's got quite a bit of upside. I do think that he's going to be a nice rising prospect moving forward, as he's got some okay swing and miss stuff. Hasn't really seen that really come into form at the big league level. That happens with a lot of these young pitchers, but man, 6.15 ERA, 4.7 walks per 9 innings with 1.4 bombs allowed per 9. The fielding independence lower at a 5.10, but still not great to say the least. And for Drew Rasmussen, he's just been a steady Eddie guy this season. 3.07 ERA, fielding independent, right in line with that at a 3.16. 1 home run, 1.5 walks allowed per 9 innings, 9 punch-outs per 9. So, I mean, that's been great. He had those 2 rough starts to begin the month of July, but post All-Star break, he's been able to round back into form. Now, if you do have a little bit of concern with the Rays, they are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and they didn't necessarily get what they were hoping for yesterday out of Nick Martinez, but for the Rays, you still have been able to get some good production out of some like a Kane Boozer, sub-3 ERA ever since he joined the, shall we say, bullpen. Kevin Kelly, Brian Baker, these have been guys give you a sub-3.25 ERA. For Garrett Clevenger, much better recently after he had a really bad start to the season. He's back below a sub-3.50 ERA as well now. Craig Kimbrell and company, the mix and match bullpen pieces, not great, but you know that for the Rays, you're going to have a really nice, shall we say, heart of the lineup. Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Aranda, 14 plus home runs apiece with over a 370 on base. You've had Junior Caminero supply 29 home runs. He's at about a 370 on base. And then the guys towards the bottom, like Ben Williamson is hitting at 250. Nick Fortes, Johnny DeLuca, Ryan Velde hitting between about a 255 to 265. These guys have been more than presentable, and for the White Sox, they do have a little bit of a tendency to be all or nothing. You've got a trio of guys, Montaka Murakami, Miguel Vargas, Colson Montgomery, all supplying at least 23 home runs this season for Montgomery. He's only hitting about a 215, so you need a little bit of improvement there, but Andrew Benintendi is starting to move line a little bit more. Tristan Feeders, Chase Meadroth, they're hitting above a 265, and Sam Antonacci, he's been able to give you about a 375 on base as well. So makes this a very interesting circumstance. I did set my total here at an 8.1, so like the 8 to the over. And for the Rays, I'm going to play it safe here. Seeing that minus 160, I'm going to go money line rather than run line. 913, 914 on the card. The Rangers are going to be on the road against the Houston Astros. Ronaldo Blanco goes for the Astros, and you've got Mr. Jacob deGrom for the Rangers. Rangers between minus 120 to minus 135 favorites. Plus 110, plus 113 is that number on Houston. 8.5 is the total. Unders minus 120, and the over is even. And I'm going to take a shot on the Rangers here. I set them at a minus 132. For Jacob deGrom, he has had a little bit of an issue giving up the deep balls. He's been giving up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. That's the reason why he's got the 367 ERA, because the overall numbers outside of that have been tremendous. He's getting about 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up 2 walks per 9, and even giving up the bombs that he has. 325 fielding dependent. So I've been loving what I've been seeing there. And for Ronald Blanco, he has made 2 starts since coming off the injured list, and it has not been magical to say the least. He has allowed 4 home runs, 9 total runs over the course of 10 innings. I do think that it's going to improve a little bit, and he does get to go up against a Rangers team that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Have been better recently, entered in this series having played 12 out of their last 16 games to the over. Wyatt Langford has been a big reason why he's been able to give you over a 275 average. Maybe not like towering power, but he's been able to now give you a double-figure amount of homers. So like what I'm seeing there, Jock Peterson all of a sudden, 19 home runs, above a 340 on base, and then have these guys that just find a way to move the line. Don't call his name Alejandro Zuna, Brandon Nimmo, Ezekiel Duran, owing at least a 260. Nicky Lopez hitting darn near a 300. And then Jake Berger, also 19 home runs. Doesn't give you a lot of on base for the Astros. They're a little bit top heavy because the outfield has not been great. Likes of Cam Smith, Zach Cole, Lamont Wade Jr., Bryce Matthews is currently on the injury list. A lot of guys out there hitting at 230 or lower. Jake Myers, throw him in there as well. But Yordan Alvarez, 35 home runs, over a 430 on base entering in this series. Christian Walker, maybe not hitting for a ton of average, but he's up to 21 home runs. Isaac Paredes is above a 345 on base with 14 home runs. And then Jeremy Pena, he's been really good recently, now hitting above a 300. And for the Astros, since June 1st, 3rd in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now they are going to be throwing Tatsuya Amai out of the bullpen as well. We'll see how that goes, but you've been able to have these guys like Brian King, Steven Okert, Bennett Sosa be able to step up, give you some good innings out there in the bullpen. Sosa still above a 360-ish ERA, but he's been much better since coming off of injury. Josh Hader has been able to do a solid job as well. And for the Rangers, they've been a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA ever since June 1st. You still have Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz, along Tyler Alexander, give you a sub 350 ERA, and they pick up Chase Silseth as well. That should be able to help out this bullpen a little bit, and boy, do they need it, because Junis is probably going to be hitting the injured list, so he's not going to be available available for this series. But that said, I do think that for the Rangers, they find a way to get the job done, and it'll be a little bit of a lower scoring game. I'm willing to lay up to minus 131 with the Rangers, like the under, semi-total 7.7. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The Tigers are going to be on the road against the Athletics as Jack Perkins goes for the Athletics. Framber Valdez for the Detroit Tigers. Tigers minus 130 to minus 140 favorites, plus 115 to plus 125 is that number on the Athletics. 10.5 is the total. Overs minus 120, and the under is even, and I'm only trusting the Tigers here. I set them at a minus 145 for the Athletics. It's just been a really, really rough run of things recently for them. And for Jack Perkins, I actually believe that he's a better pitcher than what the ERA would indicate, but he just has not been able to have a lot of command this season because the swing and miss stuff is actually really good with Jack Perkins. He's right now at 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.4 home runs, 3.6 walks per 9 innings. Again, 6.45 ERA, closer to a 4.39 fielding dependence. So I think he's doing for some positivity. I like the under, so I tell 10.4, and for Framber Valdez, it's been a no good, very bad, terrible season from 4.53 ERA, a career low in strikeouts with 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's his most since the COVID 2020 season. So, I mean, it's been all over the place for him as well. He's been really having a difficult time in terms of pitching at home as well. You take a look at his home and road splits, and I mean, there's really not much of a split there. 4.09 ERA at home, 4.94 ERA away from him, but away from him, he's giving up fewer home runs per 9, and it's an Athletics lineup that now is without Shea Langoliers, who was giving you so many home runs. Now, Nick Kurtz, he's off the injury list, but hasn't looked like himself since coming off the injury list. Still give you about a 400 on base, though, and then you've got other guys that are moving line, like Carlos Cortez has been able to give you about a 350 on base. Tyler Soderstrom, since June 1st, over a 370 on base. He's up to 17 home runs. That's rock solid, but I mean, these guys like a Lawrence Butler, for example, have not necessarily been great. The mix and match guys have just been very random, and for the Detroit Tigers, they've got Dylan Dingler right now supplying 22 home runs, hitting about a 270. I think Gleyber Torres, Kevin McGonigal, throw in there, Riley Green, are give you above a 360 on base, and A.O. Lee. I mean, this guy has been really good for the team, but Kerry Carpenter, big disappointment this year, less than a 300 on base. He's giving you some power, but I mean, that's been a bit of an issue. Spencer Torkelson, 20 home runs, but again, he's only a 210 this season. We'll see what Max Clark, their young gun prospect, is going to be able to give them, but for the Tigers team, they actually have been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA, really ever since June 1st. They did have to throw a bullpen game because they scratched Casey Mize yesterday, and Tyler Holden, who's the opener, he's been very rock solid, giving you a sub 325 ERA. Jacob Ogee's back, Kyle Finnegan, these have been guys giving you a sub 350 ERA. Do have to wonder about the amount of, shall we say, ammo that you've got in the bullpen, but I think that Framber Valdez can lend a little bit of length here. Like the under, I told 10.4 for the Tigers, more lay up to minus 144 on that money line. 9:17, 9:18 on the card. The Cardinals are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays as Kevin Gausman goes for the Jays, and one Mr. Quinn Matthews makes his MLB debut for St. Louis. St. Louis is between plus 115 to plus 120 underdogs, minus 130 to minus 140. That number on Toronto with a total of 8.5. Under is minus 110 to a minus 120. Over is between even to minus 110. And for the Cardinals, set them at a plus 132. I just really like fading a lot of guys in their first start at the big league level. You got all the nerves going and everything like that. And for Quinn Matthews, I do think that there's a lot of upside with him. He's a 25-year-old that at AAA Memphis this year, a much more, shall we say, pitcher-friendly league rather than the PCL. I mean, he's been solid in terms of getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.13 ERA. Also allowing 5.1 walks per 9 innings. That's not great. He's always had walks issues throughout his career, so that's going to be an issue. And for Kevin Gausman, well, he's just got all sorts of issues right now. 4.51 ERA, 3.57 fielding, depending. If you look at the advanced numbers, he's doing for a lot of positivity. 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.1 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, but things have just all of a sudden magically toilet bowled for this guy. Like, he has given up 3+ runs in all but 1 out of his last 7 starts, all but 2 out of his last, I believe now, 9 starts. Like, you take a look ever since the beginning of the month of June, 6.32 ERA, and he's giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. So that has really been rough for them, and it's a Blue Jays team that out of 30 teams are currently 30th in terms of run creation, mainly because there's just not a lot of offense in terms of the deep out. Kazuma Okamoto has been able to give you 22 plus home runs, lone guy on the roster, then entered the series with 12 plus home runs. Now, they get back Jesus Sanchez, Nathan Lukes, Flagler Jr., hitting between about a 260, to 280, and then Ernie Clement hitting him just below a 300. That's been solid, but just no power here for the Cardinals. They're actually last in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home. Top 4 team away from home. The likes of J.J. Weatherholt, Alec Burleson, 15-plus home runs, about a 345 on base. Lars Nootbaar, not as much power, but a 345 on base. Jordan Walker, 22-plus bombs. He's hitting at 280. Need a little bit more on some of these guys at the bottom of the lineup. Nathan Church, along with Jimmy Crooks, have not necessarily been amazing. And Pedro Paz, when he's been out there, that's been a little bit rough for the Cardinals. They also don't have a great bullpen. Ryan Stanek has been much better recently, but still above a 350 ERA. Matt Vanson has just been a lost cause. Riley O'Brien is starting to regress a little bit, and Jojo Romero is on the injury list. Meanwhile, for the Toronto Blue Jays, it's a very top-heavy bullpen as you've got a pair of guys in Louis Varland, along with Tyler Rogers. They'll give you a sub-225 ERA. Brandon Little has been absolutely terrible this year. Braden Fisher has been a little bit better, and I do think that Jeff Hoffman is starting to improve a little bit, but I do think that Gosman does see a little bit of positivity here. I do like the money line of the Blue Jays, set them at a minus 132, and with regards to total, set mine at 88.8. I'm in on the over 919, 920 on the card. The Orioles are going to be playing us the Phillies. Christopher Sanchez is on the bump for the Phils, and the Wizard of Oz, Shane Baz, goes for Baltimore. Baltimore is an underdog of between plus 115 to a plus 120. Meanwhile, minus 130 to minus 140 for the Phillies. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. That's like 1 or 2. I'm more seeing a lot of 8s out there with the over and under, both at minus 110. I set my total at 8.2, and between an 8 to an 8.5, I would rather take an 8 over rather than an 8.5 to the under, mainly because for Christopher Sanchez, he has got some very dramatic home and road splits, and he has been regressing a little bit recently. 273 ERA with a 265 fielding dependent, 10.2 strikeouts, 1.8 walks per 9 innings, but has now given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. And for Christopher Sanchez, when he has been at home, he has been absolutely electric. His home ERA is right now 128, 2 home runs allowed in 84 and a third innings. Away from home, he's giving up closer to about 1.8 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.97 ERA. And then for Shane Baz, he's been able to do a nice job keeping things in the yard. He's right now supplying a 3.98 ERA, 3.46 fielding dependent, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, but he's also getting only about 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has been very good recently with 300 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 4 starts, and he does get to face off against the Philadelphia Phillies team that they've been one of the worst offensive teams away from him in all of baseball. As a matter of fact, fourth with about 3.9 runs per game entering into the series. But you know that Kyle Schwarber is going to continue to give you Schwarber bombs. It was probably like strike out 250 times this year, but hey, he's been able to give you 33 plus home runs, over a 350 on base. You've got Bryce Harper up to 22 plus bombs. He's been able to give you about a 360 on base. And Trey Turner, multiple home runs this week. He's up to 16 bombs, hitting at 250. Alec Boehm still having an awful season. Gabriel Raconis has been awful out there in the outfield, but hey, Bryce Stott is hitting at 250 as well. Brandon Marsh, he's moving the line. Meanwhile, for the Orioles, need the guys like a Tyler O'Neill, Kobe Mayo, Colton Cowser at the bottom of the fold to give you a little bit more. They're hitting below at 230, but Jackson Holiday all of a sudden up to a 362 on base. Gunnar Henderson gives you 18 plus home runs, but he's hitting for about a 290 on base. Pete Alonso's up to 23 home runs. He's starting to live up to that contract. And for the Orioles, this has been a unit that has been a top 8 team in terms of opening rate ever since June 1st. You've been able to get great production here out of Andrew Kittredge recently after a terrible start to the season. Sub 4 ERA out of him. Tyler Wells, Yunier Cano, don't you know these guys are giving you a sub 3 ERA. Rico Garcia is starting to see some regression, but all in all, he's been solid. And for the Phillies, this is a little bit of a top-heavy bullpen, and they had to throw Andrew Painter yesterday. That's not necessarily a place where you want to be, but hey, you do have a trio of guys, Jonathan Bolin, along with Yohan Duran, Orion Kirkring, give you a sub 325 ERA. Jose Alvarado just continues to be absolutely terrible for the team. Chase Shogert is out with a little bit of ailment. Tim Meza, it's been a bit up and down, but do think that Sanchez improves a little bit on the road. Do like the over, so I tell it at 8.2, and one to lay up to minus 138 on that Phil's money line. 921, 922 on the card. It is the Yankees, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Chicago Cubs. David Peterson, great name. He's on the bump for the Cubs, and Max Fried is going for the Yankees. Yankees, shock, surprise, surprise. They do find themselves as a favorite here. As they're going to be laying between minus 124 to a minus 125 with them, plus 105 to a plus 110. That's your number on the Cubs, and we've got a total here of a 6.5 with the under at a minus 115 and the over at a minus 105. Needs to be pointed out that the Wrigley Field wind situation, it's going to be blowing in, and it's probably going to be blowing in right in the neighborhood about 10 or so miles per hour. Not directly in, though. So I do feel like this is a little bit of an overreaction. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over here, as I did set my total at a 6.9. Very nice. And with Max Fried, I do think that he's going to be able to go out there, give you a nice start. recognize that he did give up 3 runs in his last start against the Chicago White Sox, but overall this has been a guy that's been rock solid. Now he's making his 3rd start since coming off the injury list. Not pitching to a lot of strikeouts this year, only about 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also allowed 1 home run in 69 and 2/3 innings, so he has been absolutely tremendous with that regard. Meanwhile, you've got a guy on the flip side in David Peterson that I believe that he's doing for some positivity as well. I think that this might be overstating it a little bit with a 6.5 total, even though the wind is blowing in. 5.80 ERA as of right now overall for the season. Has been a little bit better with the Cubs with a 5.06, but and he's just walking a lot of guys. 3.8 walks per 9 innings, not getting a ton of swing and miss, as he's down to only about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for this Cubs bullpen, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Porter Hodge has been out for the entirety of the season. Riley Martin throwing there. Daniel Palencia. These are all guys that are dealing with injury. Hobie Milner is still banged up as well. So Jacob Webb, along with Ryan Rolston, they're going to need to step up, and they have been able to. These have been guys that have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA thus far this season. But I mean, some of these other mix and match guys like a Gavin Hollowell, you do have to have a few question marks there. Flip side, you've got a bullpen for the New York Yankees that's actually numero uno in terms of ERA. You've gotten great production off Paul Blackburn. I know that he had a little bit of a rough go of it a few days ago, but he, Anel Shavili, Fernando Cruz, David Benar, a whole bunch of guys give you a sub 3 ERA. For the Yankees, the offense has been miserable recently. In the last 35 games, they're averaging about 3.5 runs per game. They are very clearly missing Aaron Judge right now, but hey, they did enough to be able to get the job done yesterday. Needs to be pointed out, Cody Bellinger, he's currently on the injury list as well, and Paul Goldschmidt just has not been himself either. Ben Rice continues to give you 28 plus home runs. He's up to about a 360 on base. Need more of these infielders like a Ryan McMahon has been rough. Anthony Volpe actually has an okay on base, but still, that's not necessarily been a great situation. Austin Wells is hitting a $165. Like, holy crud, this guy's been absolutely awful this season. And then for the Chicago Cubs, this has been a top 10 lineup in terms of run creation. As a matter of fact, a top 4 lineup in terms of run creation. Completely shut out yesterday, but Pete Armstrong, he's been able to give you the 20 plus bombs, over a 380 on base overall for the season. And ever since he told off that fan, I'm pretty sure that's north of a 425 on base in that time span. So he's been great there. Michael Busch, even though he doesn't necessarily hit for a lot of average, neither does Alex Bregman. Both of these guys above a 340 on base, with Busch more around about a 356 on base. Patrick Ramirez has been hitting above a 300. It's been a little bit disappointing though for Nico Horner ever since a hot start to the season. Dansby Swanson, it feels like his numbers are sort of jacked up after he had that really good double dip against the Mets, but he's been a little bit up and down as well. Do think that the Yankees should be able to get the job done with having the far better bullpen here. So I'm in on the over, so my total 6.9, very nice. And for the Yankees, made them the minus 140 favorite on the money line. 923, 924 on the card. The Diamondbacks are going to be on the road against the Guardians, as Cole Drake, the Drake, is going to be on the bump for the Diamondbacks, and Parker Messick for the Cleveland Guardians. 8 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. Seeing a straight 8.5 out there as well. That under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. For the Cleveland Guardians, minus 154 to minus 165 is that number on them. Plus 138 to plus 140 is that number on Arizona. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Guardians. I set them at a minus 172. Do not want the run line, because over the last 45 games, this is a Guardians team that's averaging right in the neighborhood of about 3.6 runs per game, but Cole Drake is a guy that's really hard to have a lot of faith in. He's only made 2 career MLB starts, 5 runs allowed in 9 innings, neither here nor there, but you go back to the AAA numbers, 6.92 ERA. I recognize that it's a PCL, but man, that's not amazing. At Parker Messick, well, he has been pretty amazing this year. 2.59 ERA, 0.8 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, backed up by a bullpen that has been a very rock solid. 3.72 ERA, that is 7th in all baseball. Hunter Gaddis, after a rough start to the season, and he began the season on the injury list, he has been superb for this team, and I know that you've had a few of these guys like Sean Armstrong not necessarily paying out, him being on the injury list. Honestly, not the world's worst thing for this team, but Colin Holderman, he's living up to his name, sub 250 ERA. Eric Sabrowski has been a little bit up and down, but Cade Smith, he's been one of the better closers in all of baseball, 30 saves, about a 250 or so ERA. Even Matt Fesso, I've never been a fan of, he's been a little bit better this season as well. And then for the Diamondbacks, I continue to not have any faith whatsoever in Paul Sewell, but the rest of the bullpen has honestly been solid. These guys like Ryan Thompson, Juan Barrio, Taylor Clark, Braden Garcia, Jonathan Loaizaga. These have been guys that have been able to give you a sub 335 ERA. Even Kevin Ginkel's not been bad. Gerard Carrillo, he's been able to give you some good innings at a small sample size, but it's also a Diamondbacks team that's in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation away from them. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 19 home runs, hitting about a 250. Corbin Carroll, hitting about a 250, better on base with a 343, up to 15 home runs, but lone other guy that entered in the series with over 8 home runs, Nolan Arenado with 14 home runs, and he's not moving the line the way that he did in the past. Guillermo Vargas still gets on, hitting at 275. Gabriel Moreno is actually up to about a 300, and then you've been able to get good production of Geraldo Perdomo as well, but some of these guys like Tim Tewa, Orde Parosa, and company at the bottom of the fold, the mix and match outfielders have not been great. And again, Guardians, they've been able to get back a few pieces as now they've got back Jose Ramirez along with Anel Martinez, but just not a lot of power out of this team. They don't have a single guy above 12 home runs on the roster. Martinez has been having about a 259 on base, and Ramirez only about a 333 on base. Travis Bazzana's moving line. He and Austin Hedges, ironically enough, along with Stephen Kwan, all between about a 335 to a 350 on base, and Chase DeLauder up to about a 350 on base as well. But I think that the pitching gets the Guardians the win in this one in a low-scoring one. I said by total 7.9, like the under, and I'm in on the Guardians on the money line. 925, 926. The Royals are going to be on the road against the Rockies as Ryan Feltner goes for the Rockies. Lou Inder Avila is on the bump for the Royals, and Royals are a very slim underdog here between plus 104 to minus 102, minus 114 to minus 120 for the Colorado Rockies. 12 is the total. Under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. I do like the under. I said by total 11.4. This is just more of a fade of the Royals lineup rather than anything else. They've been a little bit better recently, but still, out of 30 MLB teams, 30th in terms of road run creation with about 3.6 runs per game, and with this team having Bobby Witt Jr. currently out of the fold, that adds insult to injury at this point. You've been able to have Carter Jensen be able to give you some good power. He's up to 14 home runs, and Jack Aguillon, 17 home runs over a 330 on base. Salvador Perez, 5 bombs since the All-Star break is nice, but he's also still giving you a sub 275 on base percentage, or just trying some of these mix and match guys for anything whatsoever. Andrew Velazquez is now getting some at-bats. That's not a place where you want to be. John Rave, he's hitting about a 280 coming into the series, but in 21 at-bats, can we really trust in that? And for the Rockies, this has been a top 6 team in terms of run creation at home. Hunter Goodman is a good man with 31 home runs this season. Then Mickey Moniak, he's been able to give you 17 bombs. He's been hitting at 275. TJ Romfield, just below 300 long. Jake McCarthy, and these two guys a combined 23 home runs. You have a few guys like a Troy Johnson that don't necessarily give you a ton of power, but they move the line. Kyle Karros has shown some good production, and I will say, if you have one trepidation with the under, both of these bullpens are in the bottom 5 in terms of ERA. Like, you'll look at the Royals with having Carlos Estevez out, things have been awful. The likes of Matt Strom, Lucas Ursich, Alex Lang, Steven Cruz, I'll give you over a 5 ERA. That's been atrocious, and for the Colorado Rockies, we're starting to see some regression with Antonio Senzatella. Have honestly been able to get some good innings recently out of a few of these mix and match guys. Jordan Romano, ever since coming over to the Rockies, has not been awful. I think that is going to toilet bowl very, very soon, but hey, you'll take it as long as you can get it. And they've had Brandon Bernardino be able to give you a sub 3 ERA. He's been dealing with a little bit of injury recently. Victor Vodnik has been banged up. He and Jimmy Erget above a 5 ERA, but still, I do think that the Rockies go out there and get the job done. Even though Ryan Feltner has had a bit of a rough season himself, he's up to a ERA that's right around about a 5.73, 1.9 home runs, 3.7 walks per 9 innings. And for Luinder Avila, he had that one start against the Astros that just killed him. He gave up 8 runs in 2/3 of an inning. You take that out of the fold, his current 4.95 ERA goes below 4, but he's still giving up 5.2 walks per 9 innings. So, like the Rockies here on the money line, set them at a minus 137, and in on the under, set by total 11.4, 927, 928 on the card. The Dodgers are going to be playing us to the Red Sox. Peyton Dooley is on the bump for the Red Sox, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto for the Dodgers. The Dodgers do find themselves as a good-sized favorite here. Going to be laying with them anywhere between minus 154 to a minus 163, plus 135 to a plus 145 is that number on Boston. 8 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 110, and I like the over. Somebody told at 8.8. For Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he's actually got some career splits that are not so favorable at home. Now, I would recognize that for the Dodgers, they're averaging about 5.7 runs per game away from home, closer to 4.5 runs per game at home. So you're sort of playing both sides of the splits here. But that's it for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Ever since he got to the MLB 3 years ago, he has perhaps been the best road pitcher in all of baseball, and he's been a little bit more ordinary at home. For Yoshinobu Yamamoto, away from home in his career, 2.13 ERA, giving up about 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. And at home, that's more like 1 home run per 9 innings with a 3.34 ERA. Again, he's not like awful or anything like that, but I mean, it is a little bit of a split. And then for Peyton Dooley, he's been experiencing a little bit of regression ever since his hot start, but he's still been very good. 3.32 ERA. He has given up now 3+ runs in 4 out of his last 9 starts, but supplying a 3.39 fielding dependent, 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So he's gone out there and he's been able to take care of business. But now you have to go up against an LA Dodgers lineup that I recognize that Shohei Ohtani is dealing with a little bit of ailment, but still, this is a guy that is giving you darn near a 400 base, 22+ home runs, and you've got the other guys like a Freddie Freeman who's out hitting darn near a 300 for this team. He's been able to give you 15 home runs. Mookie Betts looking more like the Mookie Betts that we all know and love. Andy Paz is up to 18 home runs. Max Muncy, 20+ bombs, moves the line for the team, and Tommy Edman in a small sample size, he's been batting darn near 300. And for the Red Sox, they're a bottom 6 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation when they're at home, away from home in the upper half of the big leagues. And got quite a few of these guys like Masataka Yoshida, Ceddanne Rafaela, Weiler Abreu, Anthony Siegler, all between about a 320 to a 340 on base. They're giving Nick Sogard a few more at-bats. That's a guy that I like. Wilson Contreras has just really carried the mail for the team, 396 on base, 23 home runs, and both of these bullpens are relatively solid. Now for the Dodgers, they had to use a lot of that bullpen yesterday, and so they're going to look to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's been really good at supplying length to be able to do so here. And we have seen the likes of Will Klein, Kyle Hurt see regression. They're above a 350 ERA. Edwin Diaz is starting to get back, though. That's big. Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia, Jack Dreher, they're giving you a sub 375 ERA. And then on the flip side, the Red Sox have had Teran Guerrero come out of nowhere. He, Giovanni Morin, Garrett Whitlock have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and Aroldis Chapman, top 3 closer in all of baseball. So, interesting circumstance. I do think that you get some run scoring here. I like my total to the over, so I total it at 8.8, and for the Dodgers, willing to lay the money line. Set them at a minus 177, wrap things up with 929, 930. The Brewers are going to be on the road against the Angels. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos. Robert Gasser for the Brewers. Brewers do find themselves as a slim favorite here, as you're going to be laying with them minus 114 to a minus 125, between even money to plus 108. That number on the Halos, 9 is the total, under is minus 120, over is even, and I do like the under. I set my total at an 8.3. Jose Soriano has been quite solid this year, though the walks continue to be the issue. He's given up about 4.2 walks per 9 innings. Overall, though, he's been relatively respectable with a sub 350 ERA. He's getting over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Here's the issue that you got, though. He's never been the same pitcher at home rather than away from home. Career 3.08 ERA on the road, 4.55 ERA at home, and Robert Gasser's had his struggles. 4.71 ERA, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but he only gives up about 2.1 walks per 9 innings, and this is a Angels team that is right now dead last in the American League in terms of run production at home. They're only averaging 3.7 runs per game at home. This is despite the fact that you saw Zach Neto and Mike Trout on the roster with a combined 37 home runs. Both of these guys over a 325 on base. Neto not necessarily giving you as much on base as Trout, but still, you'll take that. Nolan Schunel, not a ton of power, but he's giving you about a 350 on base. Joe Adell, 16 home runs, but less than a 300 on base. Travis d'Arnaud at the catcher spot is an issue. They've actually seen some of these guys like Wade Meckler, Jose Siri be solid. They had Donovan Walton on the roster as well, but they dealt him away. And for the Angels, they've surprisingly been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA ever since June 1st. Some of these guys like Kirby Yates, Sammy Natera, Ryan Zephyrian, Jose Fermin, they've been able to give you a sub-4 ERA, and Fermin has actually been really good in this bullpen. Meanwhile, for the Brewers, they continue to be a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA themselves. Trevor McGill has been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Abner Uribe has come out there, and he's just been giving the team the business. For Aaron Ashby, up to a 386 ERA, but Chad Patrick, a really good long guy, sub-365 ERA himself. So I do like this total to the under. So I told it at 8.3, and for the Brewers, willing to lay that money line. Set them at a minus 146 with this team just small balling their way to victory, because you do have Jake Bauers, who's dealt with a little bit of ailment, but looks like he actually will be good to go. So that's big. He's giving you 18 home runs, and then you got all these guys like a William Contreras, who's sitting above a 275. Cooper Pratt has given you over 350 on base. Jackson Torrio, double-figure amount of homers. Garrett Mitchell, over a 350 on base. I think that they just do the death by a million cuts sort of ordeal in a little bit of a lower scoring game. So in on the under and the Brewers on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day, giving you picks and analysis on every game every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.